Okay, have you heard the one where we adopted a baby? All right, so this is part one. I'm gonna have probably two parts to this, but it does have a happy ending. All right, so I guess it all starts with Josh and I getting married and really kind of understanding that I'm going to have some issues having a baby. I had infertility and endometriosis. And so we decided to do IVF or try to have a baby through IVF. Going through that process is a lot of medications, a lot of things that just a lot of science, I'll tell you. But during that process, the doctors really did seem to think with the decline of my ovaries or the ovarian function that probably being able to take an egg and harvest those eggs from me was going to probably be impossible. So we had a donor egg. So it was a donor egg and Josh's sperm, and they had a little party in a petri dish. I had to do a lot of shots, drugs, things like that. So then when the baby, I guess they put two in, was inserted, then hopefully it would stick. So they really did have us convinced, oh, like your uterus is fine. You've never had any miscarriages, and that's an interesting point too. If you have had miscarriages or something of that sort, they will do another slew of tests to kind of figure out where the problems are within getting pregnant. Well, they did not do those slew of tests. So there were a few things like the MTHFR gene that I have and a couple of other things that were also making it difficult to carry a baby. So when the IVF failed, it was very shocking. We were very much under the impression, well, this is going to work. Why not? We had a lot of naivety. We were very naive. Anyways, we decided, okay, we want to try again. But then the desperation did start to set in, at least for me. I was desperate to fight and have this work. And it was not covered by insurance. We did not have insurance for this, so this was going to be coming out of pocket. And I became more and more desperate and almost losing the fact of like, what am I fighting for? And while going through this, they said, okay, well, since we're going to double check. Just let's make sure that we do it right this time. We're going to have a donor egg, and then we're going to have a donor sperm. So when we're going to put those together, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to be adopting an embryo. And about this time, two of my closest girlfriends got pregnant. And thank God for them, they were miserable pregnant ladies. And I really do believe that that was a wonderful gift to me to watch them have a miserable pregnancy. And I was adopting an embryo, and I was seeing these ladies go through pregnancies in a miserable way. I was like, you know what? I will let it go. I can let this go. I do not have to carry a baby to be a mother. And that was a very big healing decision for myself. So we went to an adoption agency. So it was a local adoption agency in New Jersey, and it was again a lot of work, a lot of paperwork, a lot of background checks, a lot of different things that you had to do to prep yourself. I always say that instead of having labor pains, I had emotional pains when it came to the process of adoption. So this was an agency that promoted an open adoption, which we are 100% behind. And in that process, the birth families have their choice of who the adoptive parents will be. So the matches are not coming from us. The matches are coming from the birth family. So we were matched up one time, and I remember that was the first match. And again, that desperation started to seep in. And we met with this woman, and she was very, very angry, very rude, insulting to my husband, and it was just not a good match. And we realized that, and having to decline on that was our first incident on adoption matches, and that was difficult. Our second match was a lovely girl, lovely single mom, and I got to know the mother. That was kind of how it went. As a mother, you get to know the birth mother, and you go on lunch dates and appointments. And it became kind of enmeshed, not too much, but I was attached. I was already attached to this baby, and we had told everybody that we were matched, and everything was, known that this is going to be our baby. And we got to the birth, and it was so exciting. They give us a call, and we're like, oh my gosh, our baby is here. And they said, don't go to the hospital just yet. And we knew. We knew that the birth mother actually had now decided to parent. And that was our second match. And that was hard. I mean, I was teaching dance at the time. I had to go back and sit and tell like my students that, yeah, Miss Corey's not coming home with a baby. That was really hard. Josh had to tell his work. Like, we just didn't know. We thought, it was a sure thing, just like the IVS. This is a sure thing. Well, after that, we realized there is no such thing as a sure thing. Our third match was Max. And this match was different. I still was attached to the mother. It was hard for me to attach to the baby again because I knew it wasn't a sure thing. So I didn't even really recognize that there was a baby inside this woman. So I got to know this woman. I got to know this family. She had two other children that she parented. So one was actually a half brother and one was a full brother. And so getting to know the family was interesting because in your head you're like, oh, is my child that will be birthed like this birth brother? Is it like going to be like the half brother? How much of the birth mother is going to be a part of Max's personality? And the reason she chose us was, I think, a lot of like my musical theater background, but she's like, oh, it was either going to be you or this lesbian couple. So I guess we're as close to a lesbian couple as you can get. But it was wild because she, invited me to a lot of the appointments. So I got to see Max within the womb. And she did struggle with drugs, which was a lot like my mother. So in utero, she did take methadone. So I did a lot of training. I went to a methadone clinic. I was, asking the hard questions like, what is this going to look like? How is this going to affect the child once the child is born? I did a lot of classes within the adoption agency, making sure that I'm through the infertility phases, making sure that this desperation or this need to be a mother didn't outrule the fact that, I am going to be a mother to a baby that is, yes, addicted to methadone, but also, what is the process of having him know his independence as he grows up? So having I had a lot of training actually on interracial adoption. So when Max was born and he was white, I didn't know what to do. But getting to know the family was a big part of this. And in part two, I'll kind of explain, what happens after the birth. But the time came, and she was given birth down the block at Jersey Shore Medical, and we were invited to be like in the hospital. We weren't in the hospital room, but when that baby was being born, when Max was being born, Josh and I were in the hall, And I'll never forget it. There was a poster with, like, plexiglass or glass, and we were able to look at this poster on the wall, and it reflected into the room that had a crack in the door, like, the door was cracked. So we were able to see what was going on in the room by looking through a poster that was on the wall. And I get teary-eyed just thinking about it, but like, it was beautiful. It was wonderful. And we went into that room, and when I held that baby for the first time, it was like a vacuum, and he was supposed to be ours. And it was very awkward being in a hospital room. You have the birth family, and then you have the adoptive family, and the nurses did not know what to do. They were like, here's the baby, and they're like, they don't know who to hand the baby to. And she is breastfeeding, and so like we saw a lot of boob, but I wanted that. I wanted him to have breast milk. And I knew that declining off of that methadone really included having that birth milk. And a lot of the doctors, gave me a hard time, would take me aside and say, you can't have this, you can't do that, you can't do this. And I didn't agree with them. This was a little bit before also I knew a lot about like the medical like squirts and stuff. So, but didn't I didn't want a lot of medical procedures done on him because I knew of the methadone. And so I said, you know what, we're going to have all of our doctors after, we get out of the hospital do whatever it needs to be done. But right now he's going to get breast milk. And right now he's going to bond with the birth mother, and it's okay. And taking that as a mother was a challenge, because I had doctors saying, you can't let this happen, you can't let this happen. And I made the decision that I was strong enough to know that this was gonna happen, this was gonna work, and it did. So after a couple of days in the hospital, we got all the things that we needed, like the crib and the this and the that and the car seat, and we all went down together, the birth family and us. And I remember we put Max in the car seat, and we got into the car. The first time really we had alone time with this baby. And we got into the car, and I remember getting into the light, the light that exited the hospital, and our car is right here. And the birth family's car was right there. It was like a freaking movie. And we're stopped at the light. And then Max is in the back seat, and I look at the birth mother, and we're both tearing up. And then the two cars just part. And it was big. It was monumental. And it wasn't the last time we saw them. And I'll talk about that at part 2. But boy, was it beautiful.